All right, welcome to episode 7 of the Keystone Carnivore Podcast. And in today's episode, I talk with Carnivore Mike. You can find him on Instagram at Carnivore Mike Foxtrot. He has really great information in regards to carnivore. And in the podcast today, we explain how carnivore helps with healing for disabled combat veterans and first responders. So, really great information that he was able to share. Most importantly, we want to thank him for his service to our country. So, really great information related to carnivore, how it can heal previous injuries, and also with mental clarity as well. So, if you feel like this podcast or anything on previous episodes help a friend or family member, please share this with them. To be able to share your thoughts today on carnivore and how you got into it.
Sure, man. Sure. It's been quite the journey. As we were talking before we came on air. I have probably 1,800 days in Afghanistan, multiple combat tours. I'm old school. I joined the military in 1987, and probably the first explosion I was in was in 1990. And over the years, it's been 33 years. I also spent some time as a police officer. And then 9/11 happened, and I jumped back in the game to kind of contribute. But numerous injuries and explosions and just different things that happened to me over the years that finally caught up to me several years ago. TBI, brain injury that stemmed from the explosions and concussions and different things. So I went through a pretty dark place where you're fighting the worst enemy, who is yourself, because the worst enemy you can fight is the enemy that knows your next move and can meet you there before you can even get there. So dealt pretty dark times. Mission 22 came alongside me and helped me out. That's why I wanted to try to raise money for them. Boulder Crest Retreat, which they have a place in Virginia and also in Arizona. But through all of that, the mental health was an issue, but my physical fitness was also, there was a pretty big decline in physical fitness. So by the time I came out of the mental health dark days, my body and my physical fitness had pretty much taken a pretty big hit. I gained quite a bit of weight and just was completely out of shape. And somehow, I don't even remember how exactly I decided on taking that route. I'd heard about the carnivore diet several times, and I ran into a friend of mine that had been doing it, and he was just ripped and shredded. But I still wasn't convinced on the all the negativity that you hear about the cholesterol and the heart attack and all those things. So I dove into all the books, Shawn Baker's book, Carnivore Diet, and podcasts, and listened to it. And I was like, let me give this a try. And I jumped in both feet, and 4,000 or 5,000 calories of ribeye, 2-3 pounds a day, and quickly saw the weight melting off just easily. It was easy to eat, easy, pleasurable to eat. But through that, the biggest healing that I didn't realize was going to come from it was the mental clarity, the decrease in anxiety and depression. And I was several weeks, a month and a half in by the time I realized that. And then I started researching that, and it is a byproduct or a result that a lot of people have experienced. But when you come from a dark place where anxiety, depression, bad thoughts, you're hesitant to claim that something's working because you're afraid it's going to be waiting for you around the corner. But the physical attribute like strength and stamina, and I'm throwing weight around like a young guy again, and kettlebells, and just all kinds of workouts, that's great. but that mental clarity, I said a lot to get to a small place, sorry, but that mental clarity that I picked up, it's just, it's amazing to me, just that mental clarity.
Definitely. I think a lot of people, they are skeptical at first when thinking about this. I know myself, I was too, coming from your standard American diet, transitioning into keto, thinking that you still need, you still might think that you need a little bit of plants. But then when you read, Dr. Shawn Baker's book, you get online, you see all this good information, like from Paul Saladino, even Kevin Stock. He's got some really great stuff too. And you touched on the mental aspect, maybe a little bit about anything with post-traumatic stress, anything with that you've noticed that carnivore has helped with?
I would say this sounds so simple, man, but it's so easy to know what I'm going to eat. I'm not,
right.
I don't, the thing about, for me, PTSD, a lot of the things for PTSD, a lot of people get it mistaken. For me, it's not the violence I conducted or things I saw. For me, it's more just not being normal, not fitting in. And as a result of that profession, I'm a contingency guy. So everything is a contingency. I have to plan every single thing, like what could happen, what might happen. And, when you're trying to eat a diet and stay locked on a diet that has macros and micros, and I have to pre-cook and measure this and a half a cup of rice and all, like, sometimes it's just too much. And it's just really easy to know, hey, I'm going to eat 2 pounds of ribeye today. And that aspect of simplicity, that really helped me. And then just a total clarity. And I'm sure it's the fat, and you do the whole thing about the brain and the fat, how the brain processes using fat. It's the biggest fuel for the brain. That clarity is probably that aspect for PTSD.
Yeah, and also as far as the mental clarity goes too, you see a lot of people, in their daily life, if they're sitting in front of a computer all day long. And I also remember this in school, I wish I knew about carnivore when I was in college. I could have sat through an hour and a half, 2-hour lecture, right. Being able to understand.
The 20 or the 15, right.
Yeah. And it's like, you can go 8 hours now, sitting in front of a computer, reading documents, watching YouTube videos of, about health and fitness and carnivore. So, when you go on this thing, people don't realize it's a totally different thing. And we also talk about fuel efficiency too, on the podcast. If you're out, in the field or any athletic event, this would help too. Definitely.
Yes, I think, again, just the simplicity of, it's so easy to make a steak, or, again, we talk about, I'm talking all about steak, but you go nose to tail, you can, eat the different the different, liver, any part of the nose to tail, but you can also get into, I know there's different levels like salmon, and, there are fish or poultry or pork. So there's a lot of variety there. There's a variety there that you can switch it up. And it's just easy to cook a big pan of beef or whatever you need for that day and throw it in a cooler. And yeah, it's meal prep, but it's a lot easier than measuring out rice and sweet potatoes and, any of those combinations that you typically would see in the standard, athletic diet.
Definitely. One of the things, speaking about those points, is I don't know if you ever seen anything with like old articles on like Mongolian warriors or also the Maasai warriors in Africa. They're big meat eaters too, and I think the Maasai, they even are bold enough to just walk right up to the lions that just made their kill on a zebra and pretty much steal it from them.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen anything like that before.
Right. I think, and it's part of one of the documentaries. I think, I can't remember if it's on Netflix or with, it's the same Eskimo tribes. I'm still here.
Okay, I lost you for a few seconds there.
Yeah,
you were talking
I'm not
about
sure.
That's okay. You were talking about the Eskimo tribes?
Yeah, I want to say I saw there was some type of one of the documentaries on, I don't know if it's Netflix or Amazon or YouTube, wherever I saw it. The same thing with, that, a lot of their diet is high fat, but it's still a primarily meat based diet, for centuries. And that's, and fish and, again, it's a all encompassing. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the carnivore with the beef only. And I think that's a lot of people, but there's many aspects, but I know the Eskimos with the fish and the high fat, the same type of thing that, that's the mainstay of their diet.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, what kind of background did you come from before you got into carnivore?
So, man, I'm an interesting story. My daughter calls me Forrest Gump because I'm like the most unassuming. I grew up, I actually was obese, over 300 pounds. I think the heaviest I was like 370 pounds as a kid. At some point in there, I realized that, I was going to end up just a nobody if I didn't take control of my life. Wanted to join the military. They wouldn't even talk to me till I lost, like, I think it was 100 pounds. I had to lose 150 pounds. So uh, I remember one day I just came home, put on a pair of Chuck Taylors, and just started walking. I lived way out in the country, and I would go walk every day, and just gradually, cut off that as much weight as I could to finally get to the military. And then, I kind of put myself in a place. I didn't know it then, but we almost think psychologically, I was placing myself in environments where there was physical fitness tests or unachievable goals athletically that I wasn't used to, but I would knock them out, man, and I would pass and continue to work at it, and some elite units and done some elite things. I was a SWAT guy as a cop. I was DEA task force undercover. Just some really, really cool jobs over the years. But what I'll say is, growing up the way I did, I had a very unhealthy relationship with food, but didn't understand that at the time. And over the years, man, I've probably done, still being in the military or whatever job I've had, still had some type of test I had to take. So still chasing those physical fitness goals and trying to figure out what formula for the diet, whether it was Atkins or the Zone or keto or any number of these combinations. But somehow you always end up back at that sad, standard American diet. You just always end up back there. And that's all a motivation, mindset, whatever you want to say. But, for me, the carnivore discovery, it's just been the easiest. It's easier than keto or, and I'm probably, and we talked about this in the beginning. Yeah. I guess I'm probably a dirty carnivore. I'm not 100% carnivore all the time. Like sometimes I'll have keto ice cream or
Same here.
Like I wanted something to dip in like olive oil and spices, so I made some keto bread and, just one little thing, keto bread, and dipped it, just to get through. So I guess some people are like full on, but anyway, that's kind of my background before carnivore, was like a lot of people just trying everything. And then the outside forces of life, I would just I would do it for a while. And, like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the mouth. And then you fall off and start over. But it's just, I'm speaking it into existence. The carnivore it's just been the easiest, man. It's been the easiest. And that byproduct of the mental clarity, and that's a huge thing. But then throwing weight around like I was throwing around years ago, and so that's kind of where I came from. Everything, I've done it all. I've done every diet, physical fitness, Navy SEAL workout, whatever you can come up with. I've found it and done it. But the carnivore has just been the easiest.
Yeah, and it's also funny. One of the big things, actually two big things that I've noticed. One is sleep. I don't know what it is about it, but I think it might be to all of the iron that you get, from all the red meat that you're eating. It kind of helps attach with like all the hemoglobin in your blood. And this is what I heard at night. Your oxygen distribution, when you sleep, is a little bit better. So maybe that's why you feel more refreshed in the morning from being on a carnivore diet. I've even heard of people not needing as much sleep too.
Right. So I didn't even think about that. I don't guess I've ever heard that about them being refreshed. I have not slept well for a long time because of the PTSD and the TBI. So I have not slept well. And I still don't really sleep that well on carnivore, but I do, now that you said it, I do know I wake up more refreshed. The not sleeping has to do with carnivore. That's just and that's very common with PTSD.
Okay, I lost you there again for a little bit.
Try that again, man. I lost you. Sorry. I had full start of this, and now all of a sudden.
Hey, that's okay.
Hopefully you have edited. You can edit it. Hopefully you're gonna cut some out. Okay.
Yeah, it was only about 10 seconds or so.
Right.
But yeah. So sleep, that's a big thing too. And knowing, getting enough sleep, that's definitely going to help you in the gym as well.
Right. Yeah. But this, the whole shutdown, it's hard to gauge too. I've seen huge gains with my gym time with the shutdown. So I'd be curious to see once go back to work full time, the workouts, and probably the eating's going to be off a little bit. So I'm curious to see how that picks up.
Okay.
It's been so long now. I've forgotten how it was, pre shutdown, because now I'm 2 workouts a day. I can make all my meals right when I want to eat them. I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing that as well. Yeah. Just make them fresh. Yeah. That's the one thing I will tell people for carnivore. I would get so it goes in the steak. It has a metal encased cable. It comes out of the oven and talks right to my phone, and it'll tell me the exact temperature of the steak. So I know exactly when to pull it and make that perfect steak.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I pull it at 1:30. I pull it at 1:30, and then I let it soak for like 15 minutes, and that runs it right to about 138, 140. And that's heat. That's the heat right there. That's the secret right there. I just gave you the Carnivore Mike Foxtrot secret.
And this is for ribeye?
Yeah, I do. Well, yes, I'm a big ribeye guy. Every once in a while, I'll hit the strip, but I'm a tomahawk guy, man. I found there's a Whole Food not too far from where I live, and they do tomahawk ribeyes and 45, 50 ounces. And I don't always eat the whole thing. Sometimes I do, but I usually cut it up a little bit and split it into different meals. But yeah.
Okay.
So that iGrill is the one I use. There's a bunch out there, but it goes right in the meat, right in the oven, and tells you exact temperature.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So before we hopped on here today, you were talking really about probably the biggest thing and it sounds like it's really important to you, Carnivore for helping first responders and the veterans. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, sure. So when I got sick, whatever happened, the way I was talking to a friend of mine, combat veteran, multiple tours, combat veteran. He's an Army Special Forces guy. And he picked up on the phone that, hey, something was going on. And he had, we've all talked to the guys that kill themselves or are sick, and you just don't know it. And then you find out, oh, that guy killed himself. And so he called and talked to his good friend, who was the founder of Mission 22. And the founder of Mission 22 called me and was like, hey, we know we talked to so-and-so, and they said, hey, like, you might be struggling a little bit. And, and I was like, nah, like I'm not that guy. And he was like, well, you are that guy. And, when we find out it's too late is when you've done something and killed yourself. So there's a place called Boulder Crest, Virginia, Boulder Crest, Arizona. And then there's also Camp Southern Grounds that's in Georgia, all related to the Boulder Crest. And it's called the Warrior Path program. So, and they just help people deal with that PTSD. And again, the mistake is that, you're tore up over what you had to do. And that's not the case with PTSD. It's just, you can't come home after, living the way you do, that vigilance, and put on the soccer cleats, and shut the white picket fence gate behind you and take your kids to soccer. You're just not normal like that anymore. It's just totally different. So anyway, they came alongside and really helped with, different therapy and different coping methods, and learning how to, capture thoughts and move forward. And so I can't speak highly enough. I know there's a lot of other veteran organizations out there, but I can tell you Mission 22 and Boulder Crest, Virginia pretty much came alongside me and just picked me up and moved me along. And whether save my life or save my family, I owe them. And there's a lot of veterans and first responders. And that's the other thing, is they work with first responders and their families as well. So the cops, the firefighters, rescue personnel, that need some type of help, shoulder to lean on, whatever it might be. And so I had this idea for, Carnivore Mike Foxtrot for a while. And I was like, I'm just going to run with it and see where we can get. And so, the whole purpose of Carnivore Mike Foxtrot is to try to raise some money for Mission 22 so that other veterans can get into that treatment. It's pretty much all funded by donations, Mission 22 and Boulder Crest. But there's so many veterans waiting in line, and either the funding isn't there or the spots aren't there. And, the claim is that 22 people a day or 22 veterans a day kill themselves. But I think it's California and Texas don't report their veteran suicides. So two of the largest states in America don't report their veteran suicides. So the estimate is it may be 150 or more a day that are killing themselves. So the matrix the formula is not complete. So we don't know how many are doing it.
Okay.
So that's really how it came about. And, really my goal of everything I'm trying to do, just raise money and donate to organizations.
Yeah, that's really awesome stuff. And I'm gonna look all that up once we're done here, and look to see how I can support you guys too with that.
Right. Awesome. Good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, the website's carnivoremikefoxshot.com. I don't know.
Okay.
And we got coffee mugs. This is one of our best sellers, the beef and water for the carnivore.
I saw that.
And then there's also there's military style shirts. I got an E4 Mafia shirt on there for if you're part of E4 Mafia, you know who you are. But there's some different shirts on there, military style. We've got a guns and ammo shirt on there for people if they want it. But proceeds from all of it go to Mission 22 and Boulder Crest. I'm finding that running a small business is a lot more. There's a lot of nickel and diming from government agencies and taxes, and so it's not quite as much as I'd like to be throwing at them. But it just takes time. We're trying to get it rolling, and yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So anybody that you have worked with that has seen the benefits that we have from carnivore yet?
Really the only I know the one guy in my unit that I ran into that really kind of kickstarted this when I saw how, again, he was ripped, and it had only been a couple months since I'd seen him. But it's fairly a new thing, and it's still, when you talk about it, I try to introduce it to people. And I just went back and did a training exercise with my unit, and all of them had noticed, that same type of response, like, man, like, you look great. What are you doing? But people still just can't come off of that, the cholesterol, and you're going to have a heart attack. And, I love those memes that are out that says, when I ate Pop-Tarts and French fries and Coke, nobody said anything, but now I eat steak every day, and they're losing their minds over that,
Right.
So yeah, it's just hard to convince people. And, people like their beer and their pizza, and even though you can make pizza, you can make a pizza or, carnivore pizza. People like their beer and whiskey, alcohol. And I think, that is probably the one downfall of the carnivore diet, or kind of the way of eating, is it's all in, man. You're all in. You'll throw it so off kilter if you indulge in an extended period. And you can cheat and have a cheat meal or a cheat day occasionally. Obviously you can't do it all the time, but I think that's the hardest problem for people, is making that complete, like, I'm just going to fly this plane right into the ground. That's the only way you can do carnivore. But the people that are in it, it's easy. It's easy to be that way.
Yeah. One of the things too that I've noticed is, after being on carnivore for almost 2 years, when Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's comes around, you do go to those get-togethers with your family, and they might have some different kind of foods, higher carb foods too.
Right.
You really do feel the effects of that the next day, 2 days later.
Right. Yeah. I came home the other day, and my daughters had made banana bread, and I used to love banana bread. And it was there in the kitchen, and it was, I had worked out twice that day and been legit for, several weeks. And I was like, it's just going to have a slice of banana bread. And I had one slice, man, I was up it just crushed me like someone was stabbing me in the gut.
Mm.
And, I have no desire. I mean, it crushed me. It was just, it really was a pain. And I guess it's just because I haven't had that processed flour or the sugar or, anything that was in there, and even the banana for so long. But yeah, I definitely think there is your body adjusts, especially if you do it for a while. And then when you try to go back, I think it would take an adjustment phase to get back into eating that standard American diet.
Yeah, and you do see that a lot of reports. People that have been on carnivore a lot. It's hard to go back to those highly processed foods.
Right. And that was homemade. That was homemade with all. It wasn't even store bought. It literally was homemade. Yeah,
definitely. What are some of the other myths, or what are some of the things that you come across with people that really don't know the carnivore approach too much? With the cholesterol, with LDL, HDL, diabetes, blood pressure. What do you tell people about that?
Pretty much I just refer them to the books. I go right to Dr. Baker's book. That's the main one, and I encourage them. It's kind of like I use this example a lot. Like, so I'm a gun guy. I teach shooting and all this, and people used to come to me and say, "Hey, what type of handgun should I buy?" And I would automatically go into the handgun that I run and the handgun that I would buy. And I learned over the years that usually when someone approaches you, they already have an idea of what they want. So whatever you say, if it's different, they're going to come back with, oh, well, I really want this one. And I just realized it's just a waste of your time to really try to sell someone on anything, whether it's a gun or a way of eating or a car or whatever. So unless they're, you just have to learn to read them. Unless they're truly interested and you think they might buy in, and you can tell that pretty quick by the dialogue. So I usually just refer them straight to the books or do their own research on podcasts, because it just turns into, if this, then that, if this, back and forth. And usually it's just a waste of time unless they're really, really interested and want to try to buy in and learn what you're telling them. So I refer them to Dr. Baker's book.
Yeah, and one of the things I even did too, at friends or family members' house, if I think it might have been last football season, it was when I think when the book came out, and I was reading it, as I was there at their house, and I would just kind of, leave it behind, and say, oh,
right.
I
Nice.
forgot the book. Yeah. And they were like, hey, you left your book here, but I read a few pages. It's pretty interesting.
Right. That's a good idea. The other part that I thought of was my 9-year-old who, he goes, to a public school, and of course they've taught him the pyramid. So, which they're still teaching. Yeah. I'm shocked that they're still even teaching that, the food pyramid, and so he has been hounding me that I'm eating too much red meat and steak, and that I'm going to have a heart attack. Now he loves to, usually he'll ask like, what do you want for dinner? I want steak. And then what do you want on the side? He wants chicken. So he's a carnivore and he just doesn't know it yet, but he's programmed that install from the public school system to tell him that the red meat is bad. So it's kind of interesting how it's just a program. It's just, the program, and I'm going down another road, but if you, part of that research that people are going to find is, the companies that create sugar and the money that they make and the diabetes drugs and where, all that advertising. And once you start peeling back those layers of, man, it turns into, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but you really can see how money drives a lot of the products. And if you look at, how they uncovered from, I guess it was the 70s or 80s, the advertising, how it was paid, by like the diabetes, the drug companies, and for the sugar products. And, there's so many rabbit trails you can go on that take you down. This all comes back to money and paying to tell the American people what to eat or what not to eat. And it's all processed and sugar and flour.
Yeah, I heard, and I've seen a lot of really good quotes on Instagram about how, how the food pyramid at the bottom of it, I think they say you need 6 to 11 servings of grains a day. But I saw a meme or somewhere where it said, well, yeah, it's important for you to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains today to help finance the processed grains and whole grains
Right.
and cereal companies.
Right. Nice. Right. That's awesome. And that's a whole, like, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I just watched the YouTube about the vegan movement, and spent, to manufacture a lot of the vegan products, and how the damage that's done to the environment. And it's just amazing how it's twisted by the media or whoever has the agenda or has the money to push that agenda. I'm trying to think. I cannot remember the guy's name, but it's a good YouTube
Game
video.
Changers?
I can't remember. He does like funny accents and wears like weird hats and makes it really funny. I can try to get it to you. I can try to find it and get it. It was on Shawn Baker, or Dr. Baker introduced it as a video on one of his sites. That's how I found it. But they go through this whole process of how they make the vegan foods, and the different like trucks and the petroleum products that it takes to refine it. And it's like one factory can't complete the process, so it's loaded onto a truck and trucked to one manufacturer, and they process it, and then it's loaded back on a truck and moved to another, and it's processed again. And so the whole vegan, green, anti-petroleum gas, anti-capitalistic movement, the food that's eaten is this capitalistic petroleum-based product-driven product. So it's just the protesters that show up in Washington D.C. that took the big diesel bus to protest fossil fuels. I always it's funny to me how they do that. But
yeah. And as far as vegan, you also see like the processed meats, the Beyond Meat.
Right.
I was just at one of the grocery stores up here last night, and I thought this was funny because, going carnivore, it's, you're on the lookout to see what kind of deals are out there now. One day you hear, oh yeah, there's going to be, enough meat at the store. One day you hear there's not.
Right.
And, luckily I was able to find a good, 80-20 burger that they had. But what I noticed was that a lot of the real meat, burger, sirloin, flank steak, ribeye, New York strip, a lot of that's gone. And you see a lot of the plant-based foods, they're still in there, in the freezer.
It's still there. Yeah. Still there. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people.
We did it.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, we did we were doing a subscription service for some groceries for a couple weeks, and you can go on and order. You can pick what you want. So I would pick meat-based products, and then I have a daughter, ironically, that's vegan, so she could pick vegan products. And they were replacing my ground beef with the fake meat because they were out of ground beef. So they would just send me the vegan, the almost meat or whatever they call it. So that's what would come, and they would send like a little note in the box saying, "Hey, we ran out of ground beef, so we sent you, this is the same as a replacement product. And I saw several posts online, like Facebook and different locations, where same thing, people were having just, the meat eaters were losing their mind because, that it's if you really research what's in that product, like I think they say it's the same as smoking a cigarette. It's that bad, like the different products, and I can't speak scientifically, but I know they're saying that it's not a good product. It's not a healthy product.
Yeah, and you read the back of those things, sometimes you can't even pronounce what goes into those.
Right. Nitroside glycerates and red 6 and 7 and the colors.
Red dye, yeah.
Right. And I have some of my kids have that reaction to the red dye. So I know exactly when they hit that red dye, there's there's a psychological reaction and some type of chemical dump that, man, it sends them into just a craziness. I mean, they're kids, but they're definitely, it's a different craziness when they hit that red dye. So,
I saw a really good quote too within the last couple of weeks. It said that humans are the only animals on Earth that are confused about what to eat.
That's good. No, I haven't seen that, but that's good. That's brilliant. Yeah.
And I can't remember where I saw it, but it made me think back. And I don't know if you ever saw this one guy. I believe he's a dentist out of Missouri, Kevin Stock.
I have seen him. I actually have like his. He had like a freebie, like a week-long eating plan or workout plan. I think that showed up in my inbox or something, and I have seen this. He's got some really good stuff.
Yeah, and he had a really good diagram on there. I believe it was last year or so. He compared a human with a wolf and then a sheep. Now we know that like sheep and cattle, they're ruminants, 4 stomachs. They can go through that whole process of digesting fiber, a lot better than we can.
Right.
But when you look at the diagram of the human compared to the wolf, from both the digestive systems, from teeth, all the way out to the rear end, it's pretty similar.
Right. Huh. No, I haven't. I'll have to look that up. I haven't seen that. He's got some good stuff, but that's a pretty good. Yeah, I'd like to see that. And it's what's that same train of thought. And I'm not again. I have a daughter who's we have these discussions. But the same train of thought that like the carnivore side says that we were designed to eat meat. Veganism teaches we were designed to eat, vegan foods because of the brain has advanced to a point where we don't need to eat meat anymore. That argument always, I'm puzzled how, both sides have that same different opposing views, but, they're using the advancement of the brain as the same argument. I know, again, Dr. Baker and, you mentioned his name earlier. He has a really good, not stock.
Saladino.
Yes, Saladino. Yeah. He has some really good stuff on that. What's his book? The Carnivore Code, I think.
Code, yeah.
Oh, yes. I haven't read that yet, but I hear that's really good, and it dissects that, that how we're made to eat meat and how, the advancement of the brain actually, or whatever happened with the veganism and the plant food, was a step back. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll see if I can tag you in that or send that to you here sometime this weekend.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. I'll definitely jump on that. Before I know, I don't know how much time we have, but I definitely want, hitting on the PTSD. One of the biggest therapies I've had, and the biggest therapies that have helped me is Brazilian Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I know you're up there in Deepwater Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who's right there in Harrisburg, PA. They have excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, mixed martial arts. They have legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts there at the school, multiple black belts up there at the school. And they're right there in the middle of Harrisburg. I don't remember the address, but it's Deepwater Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I have no stake in the game with them, just that therapy, and it helps. It can help anybody with that mental health aspect. So I just wanted to mention them since they're right there, close to where you are, up there in Pennsylvania.
It's called Deepwater Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, Deepwater Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look them up.
Yeah.
Because, most of the stuff that I do is resistance training, but, looking to get into some new stuff this year.
Right. Yeah, they're doing Zoom classes right now. And
oh, do they? Cool.
They have they're doing Zoom classes so people can keep up with their training and as much as they can.
Yeah.
I don't know what your all schedule for opening is, but I know they're prepped to get back on the mats whenever they can, but it's a good school.
Awesome. Mike, is there any other information that you'd like to share related to carnivore and healing and how it could help with combat veterans and first responders?
No, man, I think, the big thing I keep harping on it is just that mental clarity, that the anxiety and depression, it helps suppress that. And that's the big thing. But I said it earlier, like you have to be all in. I years ago I started Bulletproof Coffee. That was keto. It was big keto. I did the Bulletproof Coffee, and I would deploy overseas, and I would introduce people to Bulletproof Coffee, and I would see them like weeks later, and they gained like 20 or 30 pounds or whatever, and they were like, "What'd you do to me?" And so once I dissected that, you can't do Bulletproof Coffee in the morning and then eat, cheeseburger, French fries for lunch, and then pizza at night. And then if they could get a hold of beer, they'd drink beer, and then Bulletproof, and that's once we dissected it, they were, having these high calorie Bulletproof coffees, but yet still eating all these other meals. So, some people, it was funny. Some people probably still hate me to this day because I introduced that fat bomb to them. But you just have to be all in and really just commit to it to make it work. Because if you're eating 2 pounds of ribeye, but still drinking a 12-pack of beer, 6-pack of beer, whatever, it's not going to work. So you got to be all in and learn the diet and which is simple, and then follow it.
Yeah, definitely. Mike, is there or where can people find you if they're trying to look up any resources or looking you up for any more information?
Right. Sure. So I'm on Instagram, Carnivore Mike Foxtrot. We have Facebook page. I'm not on Facebook that much, but it's there. I'm on Instagram most of the time. And then carnivoremikefoxtrot.com is the website. And I post stuff on Instagram all the time. I try to post some funny videos, and but that's probably the best place is Instagram, and then at carnivoremikefoxtrot.com.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you for taking your time on a Friday afternoon and evening here to talk about how carnivore has helped heal, yourself, also veterans and first responders. And we know that this is, great information that people need. Also, probably most importantly, thank you for your service.
Oh man, it's my honor. Thank you. You're welcome, and it's my honor. Yeah.
Thank you. We really appreciate that, and appreciate you coming on the show today.
All right. Thanks, man. I do want to say one last thing on the way out is a lot of times we forget about the families, the wives and kids and mothers and parents, whoever, brothers, sisters, whoever, the families of, either the veteran or the first responders, the firefighters and police officers. And a lot of times they're forgotten, and they're along for the ride, not by choice. And a lot of times you don't know the fallout for them until well past, that phase line of the understanding of PTSD and the trauma that, the veteran or the first responders go through. So, I like to hit that as something because it's forgotten, as those family members. So, yeah.
Family members as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Definitely important to remember that as well.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks for coming on today, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.